Before any European ever set foot here, before any colony was even dreamed of, this land was already home. The rivers of Guyana carried stories, trade, and entire civilizations. These weren't empty forests. They were highways connecting some of South America's most fascinating peoples. Picture this. Thousands of years ago, groups of people are making their way down from what we now call Venezuela, following the Orinoco River system. They're not just wandering randomly. These folks know exactly where they're going, and they've got different ideas about where to settle. The Arawak people, they take one look at that gorgeous Caribbean coastline and think, this is it. They set up shop along the beaches and coastal plains, becoming masters of ocean fishing and coastal living. We're talking about 1,000 years before Christ here, so these weren't newcomers to the scene. Then you've got the Caribs, and yeah, that's where Caribbean comes from. These guys are different. They're river people, warriors who see those inland waterways as their personal highway system. They push upstream, claiming the best spots along major rivers like the Essequibo and Demerara. And when I say warriors, I don't mean they're constantly fighting. They're just really, really good at it when they need to be. Down in the Delta region, where all these rivers meet the ocean and everything's basically underwater half the time, the Warao people are doing something nobody else could pull off. They're building entire communities on stilts, reading the tides like we read street signs, and making the flooding work for them instead of against them. Up in the highlands, you've got the Makushi and Wapishana peoples figuring out mountain living, while dozens of other groups are finding their own perfect spots throughout this massive territory. By the time we're talking about, say, 1400 CE, there are probably over 200,000 indigenous people living in what's now Guyana. Let's talk about the Arawak coastal communities first. Forget whatever you think you know about primitive societies. These folks are running sophisticated villages with central plazas, organized agriculture, and hereditary leadership. The Carib River communities? They're operating like a confederation. Each village has its own leadership, but when trouble comes or big decisions need making, these war chiefs and peace chiefs are coordinating across hundreds of miles of river territory. Here's what's really cool about the Caribs. They're not just conquering people, they're integrating them. Capture someone from another group? Over time, they can become full Carib society members. It's sophisticated cultural absorption, not simple domination. Now the Warao in the Delta. These people are living in a world that floods and drains with the seasons, and they've turned that into an advantage. Their houses are built on stilts that can handle 10-foot water level changes. They're making canoes so light and shallow, they can navigate through grass that's barely wet. And get this, their whole society is built around one tree, the Marish palm. Food, shelter, tools, medicine, it's all coming from this one plant they've learned to use completely. This is where it gets really impressive. These aren't isolated villages scratching out a living. There's this massive trade network connecting the coast to the highlands, the rivers to the mountains. Imagine goods moving along rivers for 500 miles. That's like shipping something from New York to Detroit, except you're doing it by canoe. Gold dust is coming down from the mountains. Precious stones, exotic feathers from birds that only live in specific regions. Medicinal plants that shamans need for their work. The Arawak are making cassava bread that's basically becoming currency. Everybody wants it because it lasts forever and tastes decent. Stone tools are being quarried in the highlands and ending up in coastal villages. Pottery styles are spreading between groups. People are learning each other's languages, marrying across tribal lines, sharing technologies. It's not some peaceful utopia. There are conflicts and territorial disputes, but there's way more cooperation than warfare. These people see the world completely differently than we do. Every river has spirits. Every big tree is sacred. Animals aren't just animals. They're clan ancestors, spiritual guides, teachers. The forest isn't something to conquer. It's something you're part of. Their creation stories usually involve some great flood that reshaped the world, and first ancestors who taught people how to live properly. Shamans are the real deal here. These aren't fake medicine men. They're people who've spent decades learning which plants heal what diseases, how to read weather patterns, how to mediate between the human and spirit worlds. They're using plants like ayahuasca for vision quests and healing ceremonies that can last for days. The initiation ceremonies are intense. Young people go through months of preparation, learning not just survival skills, but the spiritual responsibilities of adulthood. They're memorizing hundreds of songs, learning the meanings behind ceremonial body painting, understanding their place in both their community and the larger cosmos. By 1499, when the first Spanish ships show up off the Guyana coast, this is what they're encountering. Not some empty land waiting to be civilized, but complex societies that have been successfully managing this environment for over 1,000 years. These people have sustainable fishing practices, rotational agriculture, sophisticated political alliances, and trade networks that span the continent. The tragedy isn't just that diseases and warfare decimated these populations. It's that we lost entire ways of understanding how to live with nature instead of trying to dominate it. Some groups survived. Their descendants are still in Guyana today, still maintaining pieces of these ancient traditions. But entire languages disappeared, trade routes were abandoned, and spiritual knowledge that took centuries to develop was lost in just a few generations. The rivers still flow the same paths. The forests still change with the seasons. But the voices that once knew every bend in every stream, every healing plant, every seasonal signal, most of those voices went silent. These weren't just scattered tribes waiting for civilization to arrive. They were civilizations, complex, sustainable, and sophisticated in ways we're only now beginning to understand. Hit that subscribe button if you want to explore more forgotten histories that challenge everything you thought you knew.